Excuse me, can you please unmute yourself?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Hi. Well, I hope the presentation was speaking for itself. But yeah, I'm going to continue. So sometimes you can see solutions like this. You use some other components instead of anchor tag. Div button doesn't matter, and then it should behave like a link, but it does. It's not a link. It is JavaScript redirection. Like here's an example, but it can have many forms. If you use a React app, it's going to look probably different, but the idea is the same. Why it's a problem, and how can I? Yeah, cool. So it's a problem because of many reasons. For example, when JavaScript is disabled, the link won't work. If JavaScript is not loaded, link won't work neither. So, and it's not accessible for screen readers. It's not accessible for Google bots and other stuff. And also you have maybe you noticed a nice here hovering. When you hover on link, you have an information where it's going to go. You don't have that when you do JavaScript links, and you can't copy it to clipboard and many other stuffs you can't do. So if you have a link, don't do that in JavaScript, just use anchor tag. But of course, it's okay to use JavaScript for redirection for sometimes. For example, if you need to validate some data before you actually redirecting, then it's fine, but probably it's a button or something else. So yeah, choose wisely. Another mistake, it's mistake number 5, but I messed up with numbers. So icon button with no text. Why is it a problem? Let's have a look at an old version of Reaktor website and see why it's a problem. So here I'm navigating with, yes, now we fixed that issue, but I'm navigating with keyboard, and you can see here in the bottom that, well, it's gonna voice over this stuff. And when we go to menu button, we see button group. And well, try to imagine that you don't see burger icon and answer the question, what is button group? It doesn't make sense, right? So we can help that and fix the problem by adding a visually hidden component here, like with some text saying, I don't know, open menu or something like that. With this snippet, you can just do that inside a button, and it's not going to be visible for users, but it's going to be visible for screen readers. So it's going to fix the problem. And if you do that, yeah, just let's wait when it goes. If you do that, you're gonna wait a little bit more. You're gonna see in the corner menu button group, which makes more sense, right? You kind of understand that it's a menu button and you understand what to do with that. So use helpful descriptions in visually hidden elements and alt attributes. It helps a lot to people who navigate with keyboard and can't see what's happening on your website. And yeah, another mistake, number 3, small click areas. So let's have a look at Medium website again on the mobile version now. And we see there is one small button, add to bookmark or something, and it's too small. It has its size like 25 by 19 pixels. So it can be a problem for people who use touch screen, has hand tremor, or they're just in a public transport and everything is shaking. You know, many situations when it can be a problem. So what we can do is to make us like a touch area bigger, click area bigger, and well, what is recommended by Web3 Consortium is 44 by 44 pixels. We can do more than that if it's okay. And yeah, here you can notice that it's overlapping with the link, but I mean, I did it in 30 seconds. You can probably do better if you spend more time. Well, anyway, also it makes sense to use some extra spacing around elements, you know, to make it also clickable, so we won't have to do precisely clicks on elements. Yeah, that was a mistake number 3. Now it's mistake number 4, too much motion. And now let's have a look at an awesome Apple website. You probably know that they have amazing animations, and yeah, it's just a dream to build a website like that. But for some people, it can cause difficulties because, well, It can cause dizziness, migraines, or they just can have troubles with focusing on stuff because of too many things happening on the website, too many motions and all this stuff. And thankfully, we'll have a remedy for that. Like you can apply a setting on your computer settings to reduce motion. And Apple respect that value. So if you turn on this flag and go and see what Apple shows, like it's a static page. Still looks awesome, right? But it's a static page. And we should also do the same. So how can we do that? In CSS, you can use media query with prefers reduced motion. And I want to mention here that it's a nice thing to turn on animations instead of turning them off. So if they have no preferences, then you turn on animation. In this case, if something happens with your website, like I don't know, CSS wasn't uploaded, your animations would be off all the time, and it's not a big issue, right? Also, you can do the same in JavaScript. You can also match media and use the same media query to do the same effect. And the nice thing is that you can do the same in picture tag. Like in picture tag, you can use media queries like that. Oh, sorry, I clicked like that. And also apply different images on different conditions. Well, it's a cool thing. And that was it. Thank you. Let's make web accessible. I hope I did it on time. What should I do now? Oh, yeah, questions. Yes. All right, but I'll fix numbers first. Yeah, of course. Okay, thank you. Brian, will you help me to turn this off? I'm afraid to click in. Who's yes? All right. Go on. Yes. Yeah.
And then that's why you use it. What's the difference between that?
Which button?
The button you think people like the sit in the train and they kind of add either.
Yeah, it was an example from Medium, so it wasn't my code. Yeah. Yeah, for font sizes, you should probably use rems for, I don't know, paddings, margins, and other things. But positioning, yeah, you could use pixels, of course, but maybe it makes sense to use rems also. For example, for media queries, like max width, it also makes sense to use media queries with rems because, well, if your font size is scaled up, then probably you need to apply another layout, like mobile layouts, right? So yeah, you should think before you do something. But for font size, the recommendation is rems. Okay. Any other questions? Then I can pass it to who's next.
Yes. All right, I'm next. Sweet. All right. Hello. All right. So yeah, I'm here today to talk to you about what was going to be what is data engineering, but then I was like, you know what, maybe we should cover a little bit of what machine learning engineering is too. And those two titles combined make for a really long title. So let's go into it. Hi, I'm Alicia. I'm currently a machine learning engineer at Shopify. I've had a couple of different data E roles over the years. I'm from the US, as you can probably tell from my accent, living here in the Netherlands now. And yeah, my spare time, I like to weightlift. I like to experiment with cooking, and my cats want as much of my time as they will get. So to get started, let's talk a little bit about like what we see when we look at articles about data science, machine learning online. It's usually something like, wow, someone came up with this algorithm and it made, you know, they made Google, or, you know, there's this new machine, you know, this like, you know, brand new machine learning, like generative AI approach has revolutionized the industry. And usually there's a couple like key people that they interview, and you're just like, wow, these people are brilliant. You know, they came up with this this tool on their own. But the truth is, they didn't. In reality, it takes a lot of people to take an idea and turn it into production. And that is as much true for machine learning or data analysis as anything else. So what motivated me to put together this presentation is that someone asked me if data engineering was a subset of data analysis. And really, it's more like, I know this is not the most beautiful slide ever, but data scientists do the analysis, but then there's also the data engineers that are doing a different part of, like preparing, managing the data, and machine learning engineers that are helping get it into production. So I really wanted to focus this on those two areas. So what are data engineers? What's the point of them? Well, we have to get data from somewhere. All of you guys today working with data from an API understand that. You also understand that you had to do things to the data to make it work for your use case. Data engineers work within a business to take in data from other parts of the system or potentially external systems and prepare it, process it, make sure it works properly. And then they have to figure out where to put it. Sometimes, this might seem easy for a small data set where you're like, oh, I just need to make a CSV file. But when you're working in a business, it's more like, okay, what kind of database do I need to keep this in? Like, how often are people going to access this data? How frequently do they need it? And what is the speed with which they need data retrieved? Again, ensuring good quality data, some of you guys today experienced, you can't assume that all of your data is going to match the expected format, exist, be the right type, all these different things. And the data engineers are the selfless warriors that try to make sure your data is good before you get it. They also try to make sure that there isn't like, stuff that you shouldn't be seeing, like someone's credit card number if you're working with a sales database or, private emails, things like that. So, and then finally, they want to make sure that their downstream users, which are oftentimes, like data scientists, data analysts, but potentially other members of the platform, can access it. I'm sorry, I'm hearing myself and it's always freaking me out. Yeah, that is a very short story of what they do. And no, you don't have one person doing all of this by themselves. A lot of times you have teams where people specialize in different areas and then work together. So what would make you a potential data engineer? Do you think about how your stuff is going to be used in the end? And like I mentioned, some people will be needing data in the moment. So you have to think about how to make that data accessible online, with low latency. Other people need batch amounts of data and they need large amounts of data without the connection going down. So being someone who can think about that and think about like, what are the types of queries that people are going to be pulling, what kind of things they need, that's a good sign of a good data engineer. Also learning a lot. I don't know if you've seen those job descriptions, maybe you have, but there are so many tools that they look for in a data engineering job position. Why? Because there's constant innovation. There's always new tools coming out to make online access easier, to make streaming data manageable, coming out with new paradigms for how to share data across a platform. And again, privacy continues to be a thing. And finally, you are capable of thinking about, or you're interested in thinking about the way that when data gets big, you introduce new types of problems. You don't normally have to think about, well, I'm not going to say that because backend engineers do have to think about like network connectability, but you need to think about like what region your users are and whether or not the data is mirrored in that region and easily and quickly accessible to them. You need to be able to think about whether or not you have issues with like different like events coming in, showing different states of your data. You need to be able to know like your users are able to get the most up-to-date version of your data as it can. If that's a little weird, I feel like I said that a little weird, feel free to ask me about that again. Fun technologies you can learn. I left out Microsoft. Sorry, Microsoft. Anyway, point is, you'll probably, especially if you're working with big data, you'll probably be working with cloud, being able to manage data across like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud. There's, like I said, a lot of tools written in a lot of languages. You might be working with Python, but sometimes you might be working with Scala, Java, or I've seen Go sometimes. And with frameworks, Spark is a common favorite, but then like there are other frameworks out there like Apache Beam, Databricks. The world's your oyster if you like to learn stuff. All right, I'm trying to keep, I forgot to set my timers. So let's hope machine learning engineers get some time. So machine learning engineers are the people that make sure your machine learning model can actually be used, because it's one thing to design and train a machine learning model. It's another thing to make sure it's accessible to your users that's working properly, and that it can keep up to date as real world data changes happen. What do I mean by that? So first, ensure models have what they need to run in production. Some models require GPUs, others don't, but need lots of memory to run. Generally making sure the computational resources are available for that model to be spun up and run is important. This is also a thing for data engineering, but I needed enough icons from each slide. Ensuring access to feature data. So if someone is, for example, you log into Spotify, you want a song recommendation, Spotify in the back end needs to make sure it's pulling the right features and refer what is the right next song to recommend for you. So if it doesn't have access to any information about you, it can't give a personal recommendation in the moment. This is a small thing, it seems, but okay, it's not. I think that other people outside machine learning world might not think about the fact we have to actually constantly train our models and save them, register them, a lot like how we might save code. We have to do that. So I say it's a small thing, but it's not, because, for example, say you've trained a new model, you release it out and you realize it's doing a really bad job. You need to know what model is actually out there. What's the one that is giving poor recommendations, and what was the previous model that was working, so you can go retrieve it from the model registry. So having that sort of like access to trained models and being able to go back and identify those models, e.g. by like, what data they were trained on and other metadata, that's important. And a lot of times machine learning engineers work on that. Again, model performance, being able to monitor the model over time, ensuring that endpoint that people are hitting when they're getting a recommendation. I've got this. Make sure that that's still up. See what recommendations the machine learning model is giving to ensure that it's not like suddenly being wonky. For example, suggesting everyone listen to the latest song by Taylor Swift, regardless of their personal music preferences. And finally, behind the scenes, we want to make sure that data scientists are supported and are able to have access to features, have access to computational resources, and save their trained models in order to make training and developing new models to be released as easy as possible. What makes you a machine learning engineer? Do you like working with people? Do you like, I hope so, because you're going to want to talk to those data engineers about any upstream data issues you see affecting your models. You're going to want to talk to data scientists, understand their needs, and be able to develop new tooling as needed. You're maybe a bit of a generalist if you like understanding machine learning and the latest research, but you're also really interested in understanding new engineering technologies. That sort of hybrid perspective might make you a good machine learning engineer. And also teaching, because like machine learning engineering is iterating very quickly, just like data science. And data scientists can't keep track of both. So a lot of times they'll be like, well, why do I need a feature store? And it's your job to help them understand why the feature store is valuable for them. Same thing with model registry, whatnot. This is true probably even as machine learning engineer matures, because a lot of people learning data science in school aren't going to need this type of stuff. So you want to make sure you can explain these concepts that might be foreign to someone new to the field in order to help them understand and be able to use it successfully. New technology, I don't know how much time we've got, but there are some new technologies that you could look at. I suggest looking, like literally looking up machine learning engineering and starting with some of the concepts if you don't know those. And also, yeah, so at the end of the day, machine learning is still interesting. Even if you were not just thinking about it from a Jupyter notebook, going through training model, developing the model and releasing it, that's really fun. But what's also really fun is seeing your idea come to life and affects the lives of lots of people, giving them recommendations of music, shopping, or whatever else they need, and actually being able to see your world stuff in the real world. Data engineers, machine learning engineers, and data scientists combined are what make this possible. So, yeah. Oh, anyone have questions? Okay, you can always bug me on Slack too. I didn't do a good job of giving my full name on my slides, but I see Alex did put my last name on there, so you can find me. All right. Ornella.
Thank you.
Sure.
I might have some slides. Yeah.
But maybe I can try sharing my screen in Zoom. I'm already in the Zoom, so if I'm able to
I'll
just share
stop sharing
this.
this one.
Thank
and then
you.
you can-
All right, yeah, I have some surprise slides that I managed to put together a little bit before, because today has been working on the hackathon with everyone else. Yay. All right, so how do I present this? There you go. All right, so today I'm going to talk about static sites and why I love them so much. So a little bit about me. I'm, as much as I would like to become a machine learning engineer after Alicia's talk, I'm not. I'm a senior software engineer working in the data space, I guess, on at a startup called Bobsled. But more importantly, I just love side projects. I love to build little things in my spare time that don't work. Some of them do, and the ones that do often end up being static sites. Over the years, I have had many personal sites. I've been maintaining a personal site basically since I started working in tech. You know, I built a portfolio to get some jobs. My first attempt was Ruby on Rails. It was an attempt. Then I went with Node, Express, and React because that's what I had learned in my bootcamp, and my site was very complicated. But I guess it rendered some things. And then I went with Next.js, which is a React-based full stack platform that my hackathon group and I actually use today. And then last year, I decided to learn some Rust. So I used Zola, which is a kind of experimental static site platform. And now I have rewritten it in Hugo, which is based in Go. So why is this? This is because as time goes on, my websites just get staticer and staticer. So first off, what is a static site? Well, I think an easier way to understand what a static site is to understand what a dynamic site is. A dynamic site is the opposite of a static site. You're welcome. So essentially, what a dynamic site is the majority of the internet. As you all know, there are things called APIs which store data, right? And a majority of the websites that we use on a day-to-day basis have something like this going on. Actually, usually a bit more complicated. But essentially, say you go to twitter.com, our favorite website. Your clients would be making a request, actually, maybe not. Okay, yes, let's say you go to like the username Butts. You would be making a request to Twitter server for this route /Butts. Twitter server would be making requests to their own APIs, which would be storing a bunch of data about this user, their profile picture, etc. And then they would send it back to their server as probably JSON, I'm assuming. It would compile into some HTML, and then that HTML would be rendered to your browser. This is also a little bit simplified because, as you all know, like nowadays, the browser does a lot. When you have React in your browser or some other front-end framework, a lot of people, including myself, sometimes end up doing kind of too much in there and like doing a bunch of like API requests as well. Anyway, that's beside the point. Let's talk about something much easier, which is static sites. So basically, when you make a static site, the static site does something a little bit similar to the dynamic site, which is compiling data into HTML. The difference is that a static site does that at time that it is deployed. So basically, you would only get new data on your website every time that your data is actually like deployed, every time that you like push your site to Heroku or whatever it is. Why would you do that? So my main reason for switching to a static site is because I realized that my portfolio did not need to be dynamic. Like I'm not twitter.com. I don't need to be querying APIs and stuff. I just need to be like showing, my 5 projects and my 2 blog posts. Now it's a little bit more, but yeah. And what I found is that static sites are really built to provide that, meaning static sites exist for more or less static content. Dynamic sites exist for more or less dynamic content. Content that changes a lot, content that needs to be updated frequently. And so if you don't have a website that is updated, every few seconds, why would you be checking data every few seconds, right? Just check your data once when you build your site. Also, in general, I found that they end up being pretty beginner friendly. They are oftentimes, you can write your content in Markdown, which is kind of fun. I like writing in Markdown. And ultimately, it has a separation of concerns, I find. And that is a loaded term, but basically this means that, we have a website that just renders HTML. And then on top of that, you can do a bunch of other things with JavaScript if you want to. You can do CSS animations. You can do a bunch of other things on top of your existing site. That is not exactly my case because my static site is like not super special, but I wanted to just show one of my favorite static sites, localghost.dev, which is, I actually don't know what backend framework she's using, but it is a Markdown-based blog post. This is, by the way, by a front-end engineer, so she actually knows a whole bunch about the front end, and yet she chooses not to use React in her personal site. You can see the content itself is fairly simple, right? It's like a blog with a few blog posts, some projects, etc. And then on top of that, she also has a bunch of cool themes. This is what was my favorite? This one's super cute. Oh yeah, this one was my favorite actually. And then also this one. Yeah, so essentially this was my little plug for static sites. As I mentioned, there's a bunch of frameworks out there for whatever you want to work on. And yeah, simple website, simple site. So give static sites a chance. Thank you. Am I emceeing the rest of them?
That is all we have for lightning talks. Yeah, so thank you all, and thank you to our 3 speakers. It was fun to hear on such a diverse range of topics as well. So love that. Great. And thank you to our remote participants as well. We will be putting up a recording of this event in probably about an hour or so. But for now, we have about 10 minutes before dinner for folks who are on site. Let's have some fun. I'll let you, or sorry, I'll let you deal with the computer. I just handed the mic to you as that's what I.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I guess can I stop it from here?
I realized that I have